Continuity and infinity. Since the day Isaac Newton laid down his laws, a number of other kinds of laws have been suggested for fundamental physical systems. James Clerk Maxwell wrote down a set of equations for electricity and magnetism. Albert Einstein proposed an equation for the curvature space-time. Erwin Schrödinger suggested an equation for the wave function of a quantum mechanical system, and many more. What all of these have in common is that they are differential equations. They involve derivatives with respect to time and often also with respect to space of whatever substance is being described. That's why calculus is so central to how physics is done. Does it have to be that way? We don't know the final laws of physics, so we should be open to different possibilities while we think about what they might be. One possibility, of course, is that the entire Laplacian paradigm is off base, that the fundamental laws are intrinsically global rather than local, so they cannot be thought of as starting with some information at one time and chugging backward to construct the entire solution. Another possibility is that time is discrete rather than continuous. Maybe there is a shortest possible time interval, and the universe evolves in units of this interval rather than smoothly. That's a pretty obvious possibility to contemplate, with some advantage and disadvantage. One advantage is that there are a number of mathematical and philosophical puzzles associated with the idea of continuity and its close cousin, infinity. And perhaps the reason why they are puzzling is that they don't apply to the real world, so who cares? One disadvantage is that it would require us to toss out everything we thought we knew about classical mechanics and relativity, at least as part of the fundamental description of the world. That might ultimately be worth doing, but it's reasonable to approach such radical change with a degree of caution. To say that time or some other quantity is continuous implies that it takes on an infinite number of values, even between 2 points we think of as being a finite distance apart. You can convince yourself of this by imagining a line that represents time running from the past to the future. Pick out 2 moments and label them t0 and t equals 1. It is clear we can pick out a moment halfway in between at time t equals 1/2, but then it's equally clear we can pick out a moment halfway between t0 and t equals 1/2, namely t equals 1 divided by 4, and we can keep going with t equals 1/8, 1/16, 1/32, and we didn't have to go between t equals 0 and the next number. We could have gone between t equals 1 and the previous number, obtaining t equals 3 divided by 4, 7 divided by 8, 15 divided by 16, 13, 31 divided by 32, and so on. We can easily find an infinite number of numbers between any 2 points on a continuous line. More remarkably, the infinity representing the number of numbers between 0 and 1 is the same size as the infinity representing the number of numbers between negative infinity to positive infinity. That seems bizarre, since we tend to think that a proper subset should have fewer elements than the whole set. But infinity is special. We know that there are an equal number of numbers between 0 and 1 as there are between negative infinite and positive infinite, because we can find an exact one-to-one correspondence between them. This correspondence can be represented by a simple function. Here we have a function from x to y with the property that any value of x between negative infinite to positive infinite gets mapped to some value of y between 0 and 1. This might make you think that all infinite quantities are secretly the same size. Indeed, if you multiply infinity by 2, or any number greater than 0, you get back the same infinity. The number of integers is equal to the number of even integers. But things are not going to be so simple. There are different degrees of infinity as discovered by German mathematician Georg Cantor in the late 19th century. Cantor's theorem shows that there are infinitely many integers and infinitely many real numbers, but the number of real numbers is greater than the number of integers. This discovery wasn't received with universal acclaim. Many mathematicians dubbed Cantor's result, and his contemporary Leopold Kronecker called him a corrupter of youth. Modern mathematicians generally accept the validity of Cantor's argument but continue to worry over whether we should trust the assumptions that go into it. Does any of this matter for physics? Maybe not. We human beings are finite creatures, and one can take the stance that none of us can really discern a practical difference between infinity and really big, or zero and really small. So perhaps when it comes to describing the physical world, we can choose to be careful about infinity or not, but we shouldn't confuse what we human beings can hold in our heads with what nature actually does. It is conceivable that someday we will appreciate that when it comes to reality. There is one best way of thinking about issues of continuity and infinity, even if we don't know it yet.